Morning and welcome to Autism Mama Bear Talk. Today we have again a very special guest, Tom Iland, back with us, and we're gonna talk about the upcoming Autism Society conference and the big 50th anniversary of Autism Society. And without further ado, Tom, welcome to my show.
Good morning, Ula. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming. And Tom, like I mentioned in my introduction, the 50th anniversary of Autism Society. How did you hear about this? What's the connection there?
Well, I'm heavily involved in the Los Angeles chapter, the Autism Society of Los Angeles. My mother's a past president of the Autism Society of Los Angeles, and she's a lead trainer for the LAPD out here. They knocked on her door while she was president, wanting to get trained on autism. Right. And she eventually left that organization, but I now train the LAPD Mental Evaluation Unit on behalf of the Autism Society of Los Angeles Self-Advocate Speakers Bureau. They're always looking for people with autism to go around to local venues and organizations talking about their experiences, what helps and what doesn't help when it comes to autism. So the Autism Society of Los Angeles has their own speakers bureau and lots of outreach for the local citizens and people affected by autism in Los Angeles. But ultimately, the LA chapter reports to the national organization, the Autism Society. Yeah. They're based in Maryland. And for the 50th anniversary or the 50th annual conference, they're deciding to go to the source, Washington, D.C., and have some select breakouts, a keynote speaker from the Department of Education and Health, I believe it is. Her name's Mary.
Right.
There's also going to be an opportunity for people to meet with their elected officials on Thursday, July 12th, to talk about what the autism community needs. Because I know John Elder Robeson is with the Department of Education there in D.C., and he's saying that he wants to talk to Congress and other elected officials about what we need, but we have to find our own voice and come to a unified front in order to make the most impact possible. So I'm hoping that this can really see or help the elected officials see what the autism community really needs in the line of housing, medical care, employment opportunities, educational opportunities, so much that we need, and we need to go to our elected officials and ask for it.
Exactly. I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because I was going to ask you, the next question was, like, what would you, as a voice for autism community, what would you bring to the electoral body? The idea, what they can do to improve the lives and living conditions of families with someone living with autism, or even later on adults with autism.
Sure. So I'll start down a little mental list I have here. In my book, Come to Life,
Yes.
Your Guide to Self-Discovery, my mother and I talk about things that people with autism really need. And life is like an acronym, actually. We have the L, which stands for love and relationships. The I stands for independent living. The F stands for further education, and the E stands for employment. These are 4 items that are particularly needed in people with autism's lives. But you ever heard the term safety first?
Absolutely.
This is something huge that comes up often, and some government representatives are starting to get wind of the idea that people with autism are out there on the streets. And yes, we can train the police. That's what my mother and I did for many years. But what about training the young people as well? So my mother has done extensive work on this, has her own movie that she created called Be Safe, teaches the young people how to interact with the police. Training the police isn't just enough. We also have to train the young people how to interact with the police. So if we can convince, or at least acknowledge to our elected officials, that if you want to bring an event that introduces the police and the young people together, that's something my mother and I can do. And even in states like Texas, they're actually requiring that students get education on how to interact with law enforcement. So it's starting to catch on in a couple of states, but if we go to the source and it starts to get planted in other states, then that will encourage more community interaction and more introductions between the two parties so that they're not strangers anymore. And then
absolutely.
the stigma starts to disappear. So
It's
that's
so important.
safety and law enforcement.
Yeah.
And then, and I personally don't have any solutions or specific solutions in mind when it comes to better housing or educational, maybe like ponying up the funds or the money to be investing in our children's future in the line of college or better housing. But it is definitely something that our community struggles with and needs to really have some solution.
Oh, yes.
I
mean, you see, from my experience, and when I talk to other parents who have kids with autism, especially the nonverbal and more severe regressive form, or whose kids tend to run away and wander off and just don't have a concept of danger,
yes.
It's so important to build a fence. I know it sounds like building a Fort Knox, a prison, but like I'm speaking from my own experience. We are now in the summertime and summer break, no school, and I would love my kids to be outdoors, most of the day outdoors, like the kids should, like I was when I was a kid, and all the kids should be outdoors more. And I just cannot go with both of them because Michael is super fast. He's even faster than me. He runs like Michael Bolt, and so he's very fast. He runs. He has no concept of danger. And just building a fence. But to build a fence, even a half a yard fence, it's extremely expensive. And I don't need necessarily the government's support to, include autism diagnosis into Medicaid or Medicare or whatever the plan is. I don't know the insurance companies, but to give some relief for the families, like as a community maybe, or each state separately, I don't know, but just to help those families with immediate need, like building a fence. Maybe I don't need to bring me more food or whatever, but I need a fence, and it's a very urgent matter for me. And I think it would improve life of not only my son, but us as a family unit and as a community. And I think there are so many more families like us that would love to go outside and have fun, but their kids just run away. So yes, there are different solutions, like putting a child on a leash, which is like all the eyes are like on the child, and adults like, what is going on here? Why is this child connected to the parent? But stuff like this. And you mentioned housing. There are some organizations that now open like housing communities, several different houses for young adults who finish, school, and then what? They are not fully trained to be employed yet, but they want to learn independence. So they just put those individuals in those homes, and it's like 4 or 5 of them in one house. And they learn how to work as a team, how to get independent, how to make their own food, how to make their own laundry. And there's always one supervisor, therapist, whoever is available to help them, to show them the way. And they have group therapy, working on the garden. I mean, it's amazing. There are many different things. Even in Poland, where I come from, they have this community, and it's just blooming. But again, it's all about the finances, because people don't think it's that important. So it's like, oh, it's some people on the spectrum living in a little community. Let them be. Yes, but let them be, but help them. Everybody needs some help. It's not just financial help, but also the resources and actually people trained to help those people.
Very much so.
This is very important, to actually go to the source.
Mm-hmm. And really developing the young people's independent living skills. A lot of the autism indicator reports, they show the number one item that is an indicator to future success is your ability to live independently. So if you can help maintain a household, do chores, pull your weight, contribute somehow to the overall unit, that's going to give you a sense of self-awareness and self-advocacy that you can do certain things, because I know there are so many parents who do things for their kids that the kid could probably learn themselves, and that's
Yeah.
a great disservice and an injustice when the kid has that potential but it's not being exercised or utilized or even really brought to light.
Yes, you're
So
right.
seeing the potential and the possibilities more than the problems and the perils, that's going to lead to better outcomes now and in the future for the person with autism. And in my case, my family, and I lived with my parents until I was 24 because I was going to school that whole time. But I finally graduated college, and back when I was in junior high, my parents started looking in my area for a local condo, and we shopped and looked at some places to eventually rent out. And they said to me, Tom, one day you're going to live here in this condo. And that gave me a sense of hope, and knowing that there was something bigger and better out there for me. I would have my own space and my own place to live. And I had that in the back of my head as I progressed through college. And my parents rented the place out until I was ready to move in. And now I've been in this condo for the last 10 years, and I love it. Just me and my little wiener dog.
Yeah.
But I do have a guest bedroom if I wanted someone to stay with me, and I have had roommates, and I had a girlfriend that lived with me for a while. So it allows me to get some exposure and some experience in various living situations. But a lot of people with autism don't know what it's like beyond their parents' walls, or they are living somewhere where maybe they're not so happy, and so they need to get some more exposure, explore their options, and experience what's working for them and what's not, and then make decisions based on those experiences so they can evolve, take their life to the next level. And if we can't really think of it ourselves, my parents were able to create something that worked for me, and it flourished and thrived with us. So unless our government can come up with a feasible solution or some way that other people with autism can live independently or have that possibility, then it might be up to the family to, if opportunity doesn't knock, build a door, come up with your own solution.
Yes, absolutely. You're right. And so this is to bring awareness to the government officials, because it's very important. I mean, in general terms, I think they know what autism is and the general characteristics and what comes with it, but they still don't understand the bigger picture. Right. And how they can help. So that's why we need voices like you. And that brings me to another point. You mentioned earlier that you were approached by Karen Zucker, and she's preparing this documentary, Voices of Autism. So can you please elaborate on that? It's fascinating, because she's also an autism mom, a great autism advocate, tremendous personality. Just tell me, how did she approach you? How did she find you? How did she hear about you? And what's the plan?
Right. So Karen Zucker and John Donovan, he's a news correspondent. The two of them wrote a book called In a Different Key, and it's featuring details about autism. They actually, because they're both investigative reporters in their own ways, and they actually went to Mississippi, I believe it was, and found information about the very first man diagnosed with autism. His name was Donald, and they started getting information about Donald and his family, his community, and it turns out that the community really loved and respected Donald and his family. They owned the local bank. And then Karen and John started looking at more cases of autism around the country, and recently, in addition to going a book tour, they decided they're going to make a movie or a documentary about In a Different Key. So they're looking for people with autism to give a voice to autism. They do feature people with autism in their book, several individuals, but now they're taking it to the documentary level. And I first met John and Karen at UCLA when they were talking about their book. Karen heard me speak at a conference in Omaha last year, and she was really impressed with what I had to say and how I conducted myself. So,
I bet.
And so now she's asking me to be part of her and John's documentary, and it's a huge honor, and I think it'll give me a lot of exposure and give me and others, really give others hope and know that there's a better life waiting for you out there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's amazing. And you see how all the sources coming together to work for the bigger project. I believe that it's going to be huge because we need voices of autism. You know, we need people's insight who are going through life from a different angle, because really life on the spectrum is not just, you know, neurotypical life,
Right.
just with quirks. It's actually the brain is wired differently,
Mm-hmm.
and you see things in a different light, and your sensors are wired differently. So yes, it's like a new insight, you know, it's like bigger picture to the whole world.
Yes, it is. And you
It's amazing.
mentioned the way people see things and the way people think. And I think you and I were talking about this. We could maybe transition into meditation a little bit, because
Mm-hmm.
I've been meditating for the last 3 years. I found out about it through a personal trainer, and I go to a martial arts center where they have a full meditation room. And I've discovered just how powerful it is to one's own personal development and spiritual fulfillment, and really becoming more self-aware. And I've even found it to be making me healthier. Like my internal immunity is
Wow.
up, and I'm not feeling as many negative emotions, or if I am, I have better ways to cope with them. Just if people, autism or no autism, if people knew just the power of taking a deep breath
Right.
in and out, just how calming and powerful that is, and bring yourself back to the
Right.
present moment and thinking everything's going to be okay. I'm still
Mm-hmm.
here. I'm going to get through this. Those are just some of the things I've learned through
Sure.
meditation. And I even wrote a blog recently. I started it with the phrase meditation over medication. I know doctors are quick to pop people full of pills or prescribe something for their
Mm-hmm.
symptoms or what they may be showing. But the way I see it, your difficulties, your problems, your symptoms, what have you, are like weeds in a garden. Medication chops the weed off at the surface, but it eventually grows right back.
Yeah.
Meditation gets to the root of the matter, and you get those problems out and
Mm-hmm.
really addressed at the source. So that's something that's really helped me
So
with.
how do you get someone who has, you know, even sensory sensitivities, like different light, different smells? Because when I try to go, you know, even for my physiotherapy, there was incense, all kinds of fragrance, very mellow music, you know, calming music. Light was dimmed, but how does it affect you, you know, as a person on the spectrum, like sensory wise?
Well, it would depend on the environment, first of all. Like the martial arts training center I went to, they don't have any incense. They do have
Okay,
dim lights and faint volume music, but it's
right,
actually very calming and therapeutic
right,
for me.
okay.
I did go on a retreat recently, a meditation retreat in Lake Tahoe, California, where they did light an incense stick, and it was powerful, but not to the point where I was like, I can't breathe.
Right.
Not to
Okay.
that end, but everyone has their own practice and their own
Sure.
procedures. There are various different types of meditation that involve different tools or different procedures.
Mhm.
So for me, you get used to it, and it's a little bit out of your comfort zone at
Mhm.
first. I know when I first started, I couldn't really sit still for a while,
Right.
and my mind would wander to different
That's
places.
what I wanted to ask. Yes.
And it takes some practice, and I've been doing it for a number of years. The people I was on the retreat with have been doing it for even longer, and but it all starts with that intention and with that willingness to say, I want to be better physically, mentally,
Hmm.
emotionally, spiritually, and taking the time to sit and be mindful with your thoughts, be one with the universe,
Right.
because you are a part of something bigger and greater than yourself. And really by loving yourself, because meditation helps you see that you are worth it
Hmm.
and that you have something to offer. And it's even studies have even shown that meditation helps improve empathy, because people with autism have difficulty feeling how others might be feeling. But meditation can allow you to be more mindful of your feelings and the feelings of others. So you can get a better idea, at least in my experience, you can get a better idea of how others might be feeling, and then you will start to treat them the way you would want to be treated and feel and be there for them when they're having a difficult time.
Oh, yes. No, it's beautiful. But I was just thinking, especially kids who have extra diagnosis like ADHD, like my son. Now we're trying to teach him how to sit still and work on his ADHD side, not so much on the autism, but ADHD, and try different things, different therapies, occupational therapy, and different tasks just to occupy him, to train him to sit still. And then maybe we can implement more meditation, and just to show him how beneficial it could be for him and for us overall. But right now, the only way I can slowly sneak the meditation in is by playing very soothing music, like the Zen music or waterfalls, rain, thunderstorm sounds, different things that really soothes him. And it helps to some degree. But it's like preparing the ground, because then if I just play the music, dim the lights, okay, sit still, we're going to meditate, hum. It's not gonna work.
Yeah, and there's so much more than you gotta prepare the soil and make sure everything's right. And
yeah. So how long did it take you to really fully get the benefits of meditation?
Oh, believe it or not, I actually started feeling the benefits within a few months of starting. But I went every morning, Monday through Friday, before I went to work at an accounting job that I would go on to quit, because a lot of my stress and my distress, my problems, my emotional grief were stemming from that accounting job. And I found myself meditating just to find myself in a calm state so I can get through the day. But meditation taught me about having a purpose. And I started to look, as I was looking outwards, I was doing accounting, but a little voice in the back of my head was telling me, maybe you should go tell your story, give speeches to people, presentations, inspire good and hope. And I had been giving a few talks on the side while I was doing accounting for all those years. And more, that voice in my head kept getting louder and louder and louder and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Right.
And my desire to go to an accounting job was getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And it got to the point after 6 months in that job where I said, I don't want to do accounting anymore. I'm going to go on the speaking circuit. And that's what I've been doing for the last 2.5 years. Now I was 32 when I got involved in meditation. I'm answering Sue's question here, the age-appropriate alternative to, or an age-appropriate alternative to meditation. But believe it or not, meditation can be taught to children. In fact, I think it was the Dalai Lama that suggested if we start teaching kids, let's say around maybe 2nd, 3rd grade, about the concept of meditation, sitting, taking some time, close your eyes and breathe in, out. If we can start early, maybe 2nd, 3rd grade, eventually all war, all violence, all destructive conflict will cease to exist within a few generations if we start early with children. If more children are taught at a younger age to be mindful of their thoughts, be more empathetic, find out what their true purpose is, the world is going to be a better place.
Right.
And I think it really starts with, and there are meditative practices that use a mantra or like a certain word or phrase. If you find your mind wandering or you're kind of bouncing off the walls, say a word or phrase, and that brings you back into focus, that makes you more calmer and more alert. Like they made a movie recently called Please Stand By with Dakota Fanning. When she was in a panic mode, her caretaker would say, please stand by, please stand by, please stand by, and that would calm her down. And
so does it have to be a certain word, or anyone chooses their own word?
I think everyone could choose their own word, and there are some meditation suggestions.
Right.
in my practices during transcendental meditation, we've used terms like sharim, which means being one. Maranatha, it means the Lord has come.
Yes.
Or even a simple word like love or oneness or gratitude. There are so many options, and it's not one size fits all. You have to find what works best for you and your circumstances and your situation, so you can find a way to be calm and be back to the present moment.
And like back, because many of our listeners have children who are nonverbal, so for them it will be difficult to say the word, the mantra, repeat. Could it be that the parent is sitting behind them or in a safe distance and just speaks for them so they hear this word and calm? You think it will work?
It is possible that the parent could recite the word, or even do something along the lines of, and this is another therapy that I took in recent years, I suggest, it's called hypnotherapy. Hypnotherapy. Not hypnotist like you are getting sleepy.
Right.
But what hypnotherapy does is it allows you to tap into your subconscious or your unconscious mind, because if you think your mind is an iceberg, you've got the tip of the iceberg above the water that you see. That's what's happening, what's going on. But then you got the whole other 95% under the water that isn't really being addressed. And that's where your potential really lies, where your associations are from your childhood that you carry into the future. All those negative associations are carried in your subconscious mind. And hypnotherapy allows you to really focus on your breathing and take yourself back into that time when you were young, when you first made that negative association. Start to break down that negative association. For instance, when I was in 6th grade, I went to Astro Camp here in California, where we learned about space and science behind outer space. In the cafeteria, there were 2 buckets that we had to put our wasted food in.
Right.
2 teams. So the team with the lightest bucket, you'd have to put your food in that you didn't eat into the bucket. The team with the lightest bucket at the end of the trip would win a prize. So whenever I would eat, I'd think, I better eat all my food or it's going to end up in the bucket, or it's a bad thing if it ends up in the bucket. So by realizing that that is the association, or that's why I would eat everything, and that I don't have to eat everything that's on my plate, I should be more mindful of what I was eating and saving portions for later, or thinking it's not. By the time it gets to China or Africa for the starving kids, the food is going to be bad. Right. So I don't have to clear my plate every time. And as a result, I became more mindful of my eating, and I lost weight. So that helped me. That's how hypnotherapy helped me. Right. And
well, maybe that's a good alternative that Sue was asking about.
Hypnotherapy. So
also another question.
Sue's question here. We tell mind to count out and breathe. What should we add to help him go further to understand another step to calm? One suggestion that I could tell you about, and we talk a little bit about this in my book, Come to Life. Think about a character, whether it be in TV, a movie, or comic books, or a real person, living or dead. Thinking about someone who is inspirational to your young person, someone they really admire, look up to, and start following that person's example. So in my book, I talk about how much Batman had an impact on my life. I've been reading books about him and seeing TV shows and movies about him since I was a kid. And he was very determined and disciplined, and always had a way to do things, a little gadget or gizmo for everything. So I decided I'm going to be very determined and disciplined and get things done too. Maybe have my own little gadgets or gizmos and my teammates to help me out. Right. So and this also ties back into hypnotherapy, having some kind of like accountability person, or someone who you think about that holds you accountable, someone that you look up to, or someone that looks up to you. Like I have a little dog here named Bridget, and I think to myself, would Bridget like this, or would Bridget love me for what I'm about to do? Or if getting back to that character example, what would Batman do in this situation? So having a character, a person, or even a pet to hold yourself accountable and make you more mindful of your actions, or just set a good example of what you should do in your life. That's something that maybe could be added to meditation or hypnotherapy practice.
That's good. That's very good. And kids in my church and also adults, even when I was a teenager, we had those bracelets. What would Jesus do?
Yes.
So that's exactly the same concept, right? Like before you do it, like, oh,
yeah, you're at that crossroads. Do I go on this path or do I go on this path? Over here is happiness, better outcomes, and no trouble. Over here is getting in trouble. I look like the bad guy.
Right.
I get hurt. So hopefully you'll choose the former.
Right. No, I love this. I love this. I love your insight and your advice because I think it's brilliant.
And
I'm going to try this with my son. I'll update you how it goes. I think it will take quite a long time, but hey, it's worth it.
Yes, it is definitely worth it. And it does take a lot of practice, particularly when people with autism don't really understand cause or effect, or that their actions have consequences, or thinking, if I do this, then this will happen. So, yeah, and meditation helps you be a little more mindful of your thoughts, your actions, your feelings, because it really does start with you. A bunch of people can say how great you are and give you the best services and accommodations possible, but unless you feel that you are worth it, unless you think, I'm a great person, I have a lot to offer this world, I'm going to make the choice to be happy, none of it's going to matter. All your self-destructive thoughts like I suck, or things are never going to get better, I give up, I'm hopeless, that's going to bring in more and more situations that make you unhappy, that make you hopeless.
It's true.
So choosing and being grateful for what you have, to be happy and see that you have a lot going for you, and that you will find a way out of the darkness. That's going to attract more light and better thoughts and feelings.
You're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, that's the energy we send. It comes back and manifests in action, or actually materializes. So I know that many people are a little bit uncomfortable with the concept of meditation because they are worried that it's, new age and all the craziness.
Right.
But actually, meditation doesn't have to be any spiritual, religious connotation. It is just basically training your mind and focusing on breathing and just grounding. Because even some of the saints from Middle Ages, they said that prayer is to speak to God, but meditation is to hear from God.
Yes.
So meditation is basically clearing your mind to the point that you can actually hear and receive and
those energy vibrations. And a lot of meditative practices and venues, they're not going to say you must become a Zen Buddhist or you must convert to Taoist. They're not going to do that. They respect all life forms, all human beings, all living things, and religions. So no matter what religion you are, you can find the time to sit and listen to what the universe tells you, or if you get a sudden thought or epiphany and you act on that, that's going to lead to you being happier and having a better life.
Yes. Thank you so much for clearing it up, because I know that many people were very uncomfortable when I mentioned that I would like to try meditation, even for myself, just to train myself when I'm about to have panic attack, when I feel like overwhelmed with all the life circumstances and some unexpected events. Train, go back to the happy place, speak to your mind, ground yourself, breathe, focus on breathing, and it helps, it helps.
And another thing, that if you don't really like the word or the concept of meditation, how about if you take up a yoga practice? Because yoga uses similar techniques and focus on your breathing, and you feel a little bit stronger mentally.
Plus, it's an amazing exercise as well.
Yes.
So, yes, we're not endorsing yoga as a spiritual practice, but yoga as a great physical exercise. And actually, many schools now implement yoga, part of yoga, stretching and everything in the regular PE classes, because it really helps with balance, with coordination and stretching as well. So there are different positions that were thousands of years old,
Yes.
practiced over years, and actually help you keep the balance, help you with breathing, because different positions, when you lift your arms, you can actually get bigger inhale and then exhale when you put your hands down and exhale, and different things. So I think it's very beneficial if you don't try to find fault in it and twist it. Don't go into the Buddhism or whatever Zen, conspiracy, but just focus on the physical aspect of yoga exercise and meditation as exercise for your brain and to help you get connected with God or whatever you choose to believe. But I'm speaking from my experience, and for my son, I believe it's going to help us to feel more at peace and more aware of ourselves and others. Like you said, it teaches you empathy. So this is huge. This is huge.
Very much so.
Yes. Well, Sue has been very active. Thank you, Sue. We appreciate all your comments. Sue said it's like relaxing all the triggered sparks in the brain and the body. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It is. And shout out to Candace. Thank you for watching. So, Tom, before we wrap it up, could you please tell the last word where the conference is gonna be and when the upcoming Autism Society conference?
Yes, it's going to be in Washington, D.C., beginning Tuesday, July 12th, and lasting until Thursday, July 12th. And the venue, I believe it's at a Marriott hotel. I'm going to pull it up on my phone here.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I see that you can still register. So if you are in Washington, D.C. area and you would like to participate in this great conference, there will be many great speakers, and you can meet a lot of great autism advocates. Please go to their website, or you can just Google Autism Society Conference 2018 July, and it will take you right there. You can register and go and meet all those people and hear amazing presentations.
Absolutely right.
And Tom, I hope we can see you next on TEDx. I believe that's your goal, your next step, right, on the bucket list?
Yes, I recently applied to give a TED Talk because I believe what I've learned along the way, and my mantra as well, which is know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. And that's the basis for my book here and the process of self-discovery.
Mm-hmm.
That more people with and without autism can benefit from what I have to say and hear about my journey from being diagnosed with autism at a young age to being a CPA to realizing there's more to life than just accounting, and how I dedicate myself to helping others with autism and beyond. And being able to be on that stage, and considering I'm a distinguished Toastmaster, which is like getting a PhD in public speaking, I've been involved with the Toastmasters International Organization for the last 4 years, and I feel confident in getting up in front of a stage.
Oh yes,
getting up in front of an audience, on a stage in front of an audience, and really helping people see the benefit in getting out of their comfort zone. Because we'd rather die than talk in front of our peers, but when you conquer or manage that fear of public speaking and get your thoughts organized and be able to convey your message thoroughly and be a better communicator and leader, the world has a whole wealth of information at your disposal when you can tap into it.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that the TED organization will reach out to me or accept my submission, and maybe I'll see you on the stage.
Oh yes, I'm cheering for you, and I believe there are many other people that are looking forward to hearing you, speak to us from TEDx or TED Talk.
Right.
It's gonna be amazing, and I'm sure you're gonna get there. This is another tick on your bucket list. Let's check it off. Now, Tom, you are a fantastic speaker, motivational, inspirational speaker. You encourage people, like you said, not only on the autism spectrum or parents of kids on the spectrum, but actually everyone, because you're helping people open up and get more aware of their feelings and others. And it's amazing what you're doing. It's amazing. And autism diagnosis is not limiting you, it's giving you wings, I believe. So thank you so much for coming to my show. Let me just pull your website again for those who don't know. It's thomasiland.com.
Okay.
Iland spelled like you see without S.
Mm-hmm.
And please go and see Tom's page. There are updates where he's speaking and how you can contact him. So please go visit his website and stay tuned. I hope I'm going to have you again on my show with more updates after the conference. Keep up the good work, Tom. Thank you so much for your insight, as always.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.